I'm an emergency room doctor. I had just finished my night shift and walked out of the hospital entrance. Then I got a call from a colleague at the hospital. Dr. Morgan, you need to come back right away. A critically injured patient just arrived, and the director wants you back immediately to assist with the emergency procedure. I instinctively turned around to head back, but suddenly floating text appeared before my eyes. Whatever you do, don't enter that operating room. Don't participate in this procedure. The patient is already dead. You're just going to be the scapegoat for the director's daughter. This patient comes from a powerful family. Not only will you get a death sentence, but your parents will be driven to suicide too. My footsteps froze. A few seconds later, my heart went cold. I decided to trust these messages, to take this gamble. My eyes quickly scanned the ground. I immediately locked onto an uncovered manhole on the road surface. I gritted my teeth and squeezed my eyes shut, then threw myself deliberately into the opening. I've been working as an emergency room doctor for almost 10 years now. I've always valued my patients' lives more than my own. So when I received that call from my department, I didn't hesitate for a second. I immediately turned back, just as I was about to reach the emergency building entrance. These floating messages suddenly appeared out of nowhere before my eyes. I froze. I shook my head frantically and rubbed my eyes, wondering if working night shifts had finally broken my brain. But the messages kept scrolling steadily above my head. It's over. The moment you step into that operating room, they'll declare the patient dead. They're waiting for you to go in so you can be their scapegoat. The entire operating room will cover for the director's daughter, Emily Tang, claiming your operational error caused the patient's death. Be careful. My mouth fell open. Emily Tang was my roommate and close friend throughout our 4 years of medical school. Why would she choose me as her scapegoat? Countless questions swirled through my mind. I didn't know what to do. Just then, I heard passers-by nearby discussing a car accident at the intersection. Did you see that Bentley with the 8888 license plate that went into the river earlier? The owner's already been sent to the emergency room. Looks like someone important. At that moment, my phone buzzed twice. Messages from Emily Tang. Morgan, where are you? Hurry up. Pre-op is ready, we're just waiting for you. Move it. I'm waiting for you at the operating room entrance. See you. Seeing these 3 urgent messages, the blood in my veins practically froze. Could there really be such a coincidence? A patient with serious connections and Emily frantically urging me to get to the operating room. Thinking calmly about it, this was supposedly just a routine emergency. The emergency department had so many doctors on duty. What reason could there be that specifically required a doctor who just finished a night shift to rush back for surgery? Thinking about it this way, the floating messages seemed highly credible. Once I put on those scrubs, from that moment on, I'd become a lamb led to slaughter. The patient's death would be entirely blamed on me. Combined with testimony from all my colleagues, I wouldn't be able to clear my name even if I jumped into the ocean. I didn't dare think further. The more I thought about it, the more terrified I became. Looking at Emily's messages, I didn't reply immediately. Almost 10 minutes had passed since I received the notification. I quickly made a decision in my mind. Since the messages said I would be framed, then I'd take the scramble. As long as I didn't appear in that operating room, no one could frame me. My eyes quickly scanned the ground. I immediately locked onto a spot in front of the emergency building, an uncovered manhole on the road surface. I pretended to hurry toward the emergency entrance. As I approached the opening, I gritted my teeth and suddenly shut my eyes, then threw my entire body into the manhole. The sensation of weightlessness suddenly engulfed me. I instinctively tensed my body. The next second, I crashed heavily onto the hard cement floor at the bottom of the well. A dull thud. The impact shook my internal organs with pain. Fortunately, the bottom of the well was dry with no standing water, but the bare hard ground provided no cushioning whatsoever. Intense pain radiated from my head and lower leg throughout my entire body. I convulsed with pain, cold sweat instantly soaking through my clothes. I knew in my heart, most likely I had fractured bones. This old drainage well outside the hospital had been abandoned long ago. A few days ago someone had stolen the manhole cover. It hadn't been replaced yet. Only an inconspicuous warning barrier surrounded the opening. In my rush to get to surgery, I hadn't looked carefully and stepped into empty air. There couldn't be a more perfect day. Accident. My phone, which had fallen nearby, kept ringing repeatedly. The ringtone echoed especially sharply in the dark, silent bottom of the well. But I didn't move. I let the phone ring and stop and ring again. I kept my eyes tightly shut. After all, how could an unconscious, comatose person answer a phone call? I just needed to wait quietly for someone to discover me. The longer this took, the better. 15 minutes later, construction workers arriving to install a new manhole cover reached the scene. They immediately spotted my purse scattered near the opening. The worker's heart tightened. He immediately leaned over to look inside. His flashlight beam penetrated the well, instantly revealing my motionless form at the bottom. Someone fell in. Quick! Rescue them! The worker immediately grabbed his walkie-talkie and called for emergency help. I maintained my unconscious posture the entire time, eyes tightly closed. I let the commotion above grow louder and louder. I could only hear countless footsteps and shouting from the opening. The crowd grew larger and larger. I could even hear the clicking of phone cameras. Before long, police and firefighters arrived in succession. The rescue ladder was quickly set up. The firefighters carefully secured my severely injured, unconscious body to ropes and slowly lifted me out of the deep well. The moment I emerged from the well, everyone could see clearly. My head and face were covered in blood. I was groaning softly. No one dared delay. They immediately carried me into the nearby emergency building, while I waited for rescue. Through the floating messages, I learned what the original plot had been. Emily and I were classmates in medical school, closest sisters for 4 years. Later, we both entered this top 3 hospital in the country. But the difference was I got in through my own abilities, while Emily relied on her father, the director's connections. She had always lived in my shadow, and gradually her mind became twisted. She wanted to surpass me in everything. This accident was her responsibility to handle, but Emily's medical skills weren't solid, and she was desperate to show off. This directly led to the patient's premature brain death. However, her first thought was to make me the scapegoat. This way she could avoid prison and eliminate me at the same time. The one treating my wounds was Kevin Jang, a male doctor from my department. When he saw my face clearly, his hands paused mid-motion, his pupils contracted sharply. Kevin blurted out, "Dr. Morgan? How are you here? Shouldn't you be in the operating room saving a patient right now?" As soon as he finished speaking, a police officer standing nearby spoke first to explain, "Oh? She's a doctor at your hospital? She accidentally fell into a manhole. We just rescued her." Kevin froze instantly upon hearing this, his gaze falling on my face. His mouth opened and closed, clearly wanting to say something several times but holding back. It seemed he was in on it, but with the police present. He didn't dare say another word, only silently picked up his instruments and carefully treated my wounds. The process of cleaning and suturing was clear and agonizing. The wound on my forehead required 3 full stitches. My right leg was also put in a cast due to the fracture. Next, I was wheeled into the examination room for a head CT scan. Fortunately, the results showed only a mild concussion, nothing serious. Seeing that I had regained considerable consciousness, 2 police officers entered the observation room with their notebooks. They routinely took my statement about the accident. Shortly after, staff from the hospital's surveillance room rushed over. They brought complete road surveillance footage and handed it to the police for verification on the spot. The surveillance footage was clear and complete, matching my account exactly. After reviewing the footage, the police confirmed this was a pure accident. Just then, I suddenly cried out. I acted urgent. Oh no! Oh no. They're waiting for me to do surgery. How could I have been delayed here so long? I tried to show the normal reaction an emergency room doctor should have. So despite the pain throughout my body, despite the police trying to stop me, I struggled to get up. Wheel me over there. I need to get to the operating room. The officers also tried to calm me. Dr. Morgan, please stay calm. Your physical condition isn't suitable for surgery right now. I acted extremely anxious, forcibly propping myself up and insisting on sitting in the wheelchair. No, I can't rest easy. I have to go check. Everyone couldn't stop me. But when I hurried to the operating room entrance, the atmosphere there was already deathly silent. A mass of patient family members surrounded the area, crying hysterically, completely breaking down emotionally. The operating room lights were off. The emergency procedure had already ended. Standing before the family members was Emily Tang in surgical scrubs. I watched as she lowered her eyes, feigning deep sorrow as she sighed, "I'm sorry. We did everything we could, but the patient couldn't be saved and has been pronounced dead." The family members instantly broke down, their heart-wrenching cries suddenly exploding. Emily's tone shifted, her voice carrying a hint of veiled accusation. She deliberately directed blame toward me. "Actually, there was a good chance we could have saved his life. But unfortunately, the lead surgeon, Dr. Morgan Bennett, made repeated errors, which led to..." This statement was like a spark falling into a powder keg, instantly igniting everyone's fury. "Where's Morgan Bennett? Why doesn't she dare come out? Criminal negligence. We demand justice." The family members were instantly enraged, frantically demanding I pay with my life. I sat in my wheelchair, quietly watching her twist the truth. In the chaos, one family member locked eyes on my ID badge and read it word by word, "Emergency room doctor, Morgan Bennett." At those words, everyone's eyes turned to me. The patient's wife had been collapsed on the floor sobbing, but upon hearing this, she instantly lost control. She scrambled up from the ground, eyes bloodshot, and charged at me like a madwoman. "It's you. You're the negligent one who killed my husband." She grabbed my collar, her nails digging deep into my flesh. The violent pulling sent waves of intense pain through my right leg. The surrounding family members swarmed forward, completely out of control. Shoving. Cursing. One after another. "Quack doctor. Criminal negligence. You killed someone and your conscience doesn't hurt? She must pay with her life." My fractured right leg left me with absolutely no ability to fight back. I could only grip the wheelchair tightly, enduring the intense pain and sense of injustice. I tried desperately to explain, but each time my voice was drowned out by the chaotic cursing. It wasn't me. I had nothing to do with this surgery. I wasn't involved in the emergency procedure at all, but my defense seemed pale and powerless before the furious family members. Standing at the back of the crowd, Emily Tang watched coldly as I was surrounded and attacked by everyone. A vicious smile played at the corners of her mouth. "Morgan Bennett, you still want to make excuses at this point?" She feigned deep anguish, raising her voice. "You caused a medical accident and instead of taking responsibility, you deliberately faked a fracture. I think you're just trying to evade accountability." These words completely sealed my guilt. The scene spiraled completely out of control. Hearing the commotion, the police and Kevin Zhang rushed over. The officers quickly pushed into the scene and shielded me behind them. "Stop. This is a hospital." The patient's wife stepped forward and grabbed the officer's sleeve. "Officer. This doctor was criminally negligent. She killed my husband. You must arrest her and put her in prison." Accusations rose one after another. Everyone was convinced that I was the culprit behind this medical accident. Only Emily Tang, seeing the police, reacted with confusion at first. Clearly she didn't know what had happened to me outside. The lead officer's gaze swept coldly over the noisy family members. He asked clearly and pointedly, "You're saying that Dr. Morgan Bennett just made an operational error in the operating room and killed the patient?" The family members didn't even think before immediately responding in unison. That's right. It was her. Upon hearing this, the officer let out a cold laugh. How absurd. He then pulled out his phone from his pocket and held it up high, pointing it at everyone present. Then you'd all better take a good look at what this is. After seeing what was on the phone, Emily Tang's pupils contracted sharply, the color draining from her face instantly. The family members' expressions changed dramatically, and the entire scene fell silent. The phone screen displayed the surveillance footage from outside the hospital. The timestamp was impossible to argue with. The moment the hospital called me back, the footage showed me turning around and hurrying toward the emergency entrance. Then, several seconds later, I stepped into empty air and fell directly into the abandoned manhole. The next clip showed firefighters arriving. Police arriving. My rescue. My transfer into the emergency department. Every second had been recorded clearly. The lead officer's voice was icy. According to the timeline, Dr. Morgan Bennett fell into the manhole 23 minutes before the surgery even began. She was being treated for her injuries during the entire procedure. So tell me, how exactly did she perform an operation she was never present for? Silence. Dead silence. The family members stared at the screen in disbelief. Then they slowly turned toward Emily. Emily's lips trembled. No. No, that's impossible. The patient's wife was the first to react. She looked at me. Then at the surveillance footage. Then at Emily. Her expression twisted violently. You lied to us? Emily's face turned pale. I didn't. The lead officer interrupted coldly. Dr. Tang. You'd better explain carefully. Because making false statements during a criminal investigation carries legal consequences. Sweat instantly covered Emily's forehead. The confidence she had displayed moments ago vanished completely. She subconsciously looked toward the operating room doors, as if searching for help. Unfortunately for her, nobody stepped forward. Not a single person. The floating messages appeared again. The operating room staff are abandoning her. Nobody wants to take responsibility. Everyone knows the patient was already brain dead before surgery started. They're preparing to sacrifice Emily. I watched quietly. Exactly as the messages predicted. A nurse suddenly lowered her head. Then another. Then another. Finally someone spoke. It wasn't Dr. Morgan. We never saw her. The crowd erupted. Emily spun around in shock. What are you saying? The nurse clenched her teeth. You told us Dr. Morgan was on her way. You said she'd be listed as lead surgeon. You said Director Tang approved it. Another doctor immediately followed. That's right. The operation was performed by Dr. Emily Tang. Dr. Morgan never entered the operating room. Every sentence landed like a hammer. Emily's face grew whiter and whiter. The patient's family members looked ready to tear her apart. The wife screamed. So you're the one who killed my husband? Emily staggered backward. No. He was already critical when he arrived. You don't understand. The officer immediately caught the key detail. Already critical? He narrowed his eyes. Then why did you tell the family there was a good chance of survival? Emily froze. The officer continued. And why did you publicly accuse Dr. Morgan of operational errors? Emily opened her mouth. Nothing came out. At that moment, a furious roar echoed down the hallway. Emily Tang. Everyone turned. Director Tang was running toward us. His face was deathly pale. He had clearly learned what happened. The moment he arrived, he slapped Emily across the face. Smack. The sound echoed through the corridor. Emily collapsed onto the floor. Dad. Shut up. Director Tang's body trembled with rage. The patient's identity had already been confirmed. The deceased was the only son of a powerful family. A family even Director Tang couldn't afford to offend. Now the truth was unraveling in front of everyone. There was no saving her. The patient's father stepped forward. His eyes were red. His voice was terrifyingly calm. I want the complete medical records. I want the surgical recordings. And I want everyone responsible held accountable. The atmosphere instantly became suffocating. The floating messages appeared again. It's over. The surgical recordings were never deleted. Emily panicked and forgot. Everything is stored on the hospital server. The truth will come out. 3 days later, the investigation results were released. The recordings showed that Emily had misjudged the patient's condition repeatedly. Several doctors had questioned her decisions during surgery. She ignored them all. After the patient died, she attempted to falsify records. Then she tried to place full responsibility on me. The evidence was overwhelming. She was arrested directly from the hospital. Director Tang was suspended pending investigation. Several staff members who helped conceal the truth lost their medical licenses. The hospital issued a public apology. My name was completely cleared. When the patient's family learned the truth, the wife personally came to my hospital room. The moment she saw me, she bowed deeply. I'm sorry. Tears streamed down her face. I believed the wrong person. I simply nodded. I understood her grief. The real person who deserved her hatred had never been me. A month later, I was discharged. My leg was still healing, but I could finally walk with a cane. As I stepped out of the hospital entrance, sunlight fell across my face. For the first time in weeks, I felt truly alive. The floating messages appeared one final time. Congratulations. You changed your fate. You saved yourself. You saved your parents. You survived. The words slowly faded. Then disappeared forever. I stood there quietly for a long moment. Looking at the busy street ahead. Thinking about how close I had come to losing everything. Then I smiled. Turned around. And walked toward the future that had almost been stolen from me.